Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio, where top performers share their secrets to help you achieve your personal and your professional goals. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and together with my truly amazing guests, we bring you inspiring and actionable insights aimed to take your life and your business to the next level. Ranked in the top percent globally, this podcast really is a must listen. And again, it's because of my guests. So whether you are tuning in for entrepreneurial tips, career advice, or personal development strategies, get ready to turn inspiration into action, challenges into triumphs, and dreams into reality. And our topic today with my returning guest, Anthony Iannarino, is his most recent book, The Negativity Fast, which is on my desk. And I also have another book that he sent me when he was here the last time called The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. Anthony is a highly respected author. He's a speaker and a sales leader who has spent over 3 decades helping individuals and organizations achieve their sales goals. And in fact, Seth Godin, author of This Is Marketing, says about the Negativity Fast, the actual title of this book is The Positivity Buffet. It's a hands-on, research-based, and practical guide to taking control of how we see the world. If you value your freedom, independence, and responsibility, you'll be thrilled to give it a try. So all that to say, Anthony's passion for sales is infectious, and his expertise in the field is really second to none. He has a true talent for breaking down complex sales concepts into simple, actionable steps that anyone can implement to achieve success. Anthony, welcome back to Your Partner in Success Radio, and thank you.
I want to do something very quickly because you missed one of the reasons why somebody should be listening to this podcast. Your voice, just that voice. I think people come here for that voice.
Oh, see, now we're done. We don't have to talk anymore. Thank you. I appreciate that. And see, I don't hear it. Well, and I think I've shared this with you. If I accidentally hear my own voice, I just kind of do what we call in the South a whole body frisson. To me, I sound like I'm about to say, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." I think I sound ridiculous. So I don't go listen to it.
You have definitely have the voice for this. I can tell you that much.
Oh, thank you. That you are so kind. So I wanted to tell you before we get started how much I appreciate these books that you have gifted me with. They are a very important addition to my entrepreneurial library. So let's get started. Tell us a bit about you and your background. And honestly, Anthony, I'm going to be muting a lot because I want you to do the talking. These books are phenomenal.
Where do we want to start? Do you want me to go back to brain surgeries and all of that stuff?
You know, we talked about that the last time you were here, didn't we?
Yeah, we did a bit.
Yeah, well, let's just send everybody back to the first one because they're both very important. So let's talk about the Negativity Fast because you sent me this book, months ago, and it took us this long to get you on the show because I'm so booked up, thank goodness. But I've read this book twice. I've got sticky notes all over it. It's getting fat. It's got sticky notes everywhere. So let's talk about some of the key techniques that you use because sales professionals, we're all in sales. If you're a 3-year-old, you're in sales and you're going to win every time.
True. That's 100% true. They're the best negotiators ever, little ones.
They are. I watch parents with their 3-year-olds and I'm just thinking, you're going to lose. I don't know why you're bothering. You already lost.
They'll keep asking until they get what they want.
That's exactly right. So let's talk about the Negativity Fast. Oh, and before, let me open up one of my stickies. This is one of the first ones I went, oh my God. It says negativity is biological. And I just sucked in wind when I read that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's very easy to put yourself in a situation where you are negative simply because of your physical body. So if you're not getting, now I know you're not going to say that this is the right number for you, but if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you will have a propensity to be more negative than positive. If you get more sleep than that, you're going to feel a lot better. So that's one of the things. The other thing that we can do to make sure that we're negative is just don't drink water. If you just don't drink water, you will start to dehydrate, and that will do a whole bunch of things to your body that is not good for you. And then you'll also feel more negative. If you don't eat well, and some of us don't eat well because we're on the road doing keynotes and things like that. But if you're eating poorly and you're especially eating a lot of sugar or something like that, that will change your chemistry so much that that will cause you to be negative. So I think this is like the easiest thing to do. There's this idea called SHED, and SHED is an acronym for sleep, hydration, exercise, and sleep. And then there's one other thing. What is it that I'm missing? Oh, I always add joy to the end of this. I think if you're not joyful, it's probably not really good. So you should be joyful too.
And see, sleep is not something, it's not a good skill for me. It never has been. I've slept, people say, oh, I slept like a baby. So you were up every hour, after hour and a half, I'm stuttering, 2 hours screaming for something, water, diaper change. What are you up to? So I do sleep like a baby because I catnap. I sleep for, bits and snatches at a time, but I've done it all of my life. So I don't think it really impacts me. I hope it doesn't. But
Me too.
maybe yeah, maybe as I get older, oh God, I'll sleep even less. Okay, now I'm scared. But I drink a lot of water. I am so grateful and so thankful for water. And I tell it, I was taking a sip of water just as you said that. I always tell my water, thank you. I love water. Always have, always will. Exercise, I get. And joy, as far as I'm concerned, that's all I've got. So I don't want anything different. I refuse. When I catch myself being negative, I sit myself down and have a nice long chat with myself. I take myself outside, no matter what the weather is, and I breathe.
Breathing's really a good thing
Ground
if you want to
myself.
be positive. Just breathing, that can make you more positive than negative. Just that. It's another part of our physiology and how that impacts us. If you can sit down and just breathe, it'll take all the stress and anxiety away if you just focus on that. It's a
And
great strategy.
it works for me. And you know what I do when I'm really needing to say, okay, Denise, calm down, focus, because focus for a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it, focus can be, like a bumblebee darting around. Like, I catch myself squirrel braining all over the place. And I know I'm mixing metaphors, but when I really need to sit, focus, and breathe, I will touch my chest between my breasts, obviously, where I think my heart might be. And
Yeah.
I'm touching that and I'm talking out loud to God, the universe, my spirits, whoever is listening to me. I'm talking out loud while I'm breathing. I calm down within seconds.
Now, that's a good skill to have. If more people had that, things would be a lot easier for their lives if they were just able to center themselves and just get rid of that anxiety and that stress or anger if they have anger. Getting rid of that's really, really important. And most people don't know this, but if you are angry a lot, you will have physical problems, and you may have some stress and some anxiety that you don't need to have, just because you're angry, and that's really unhealthy for you. So if you can do anything to just remove anything that's causing you to feel negative, it will do a whole lot for you as it pertains to having what we don't believe that there's no reason for you to be negative. Like sometimes something happens, you should be negative. But if it's not one of those things and you're just grouchy, you should just try to settle down, let this thing go, and then go back to trying to be as positive as you can. You're not going to be positive all the time, but you should try to do it more.
And there's a difference in my way of thinking between being irritated, which happens. I irritate myself on occasion, and being angry. I think those are two different ends of the line, if you will. You
Right.
start being irritated, and then you go to angry. Angry can become habitual, and I stay away from those people.
It's really bad for you, mentally and physically. It does a lot to your body when you walk around being angry. And I'm an Enneagram 8, so that's like my default is angry. And so I've had to do a lot of work. One of the reasons I did the negativity fast was to get rid of that angry. When I started it, I thought I have to be more positive than negative, and I was angry. I had a professor, his name was Mike Distelhorst, and he said, "You're really angry about a lot of things. You need to figure out how to lay that down." And like that's a really good thing to say, right? But how do you execute it? Like, so I didn't get any execution. About 6 months after he gave me that advice, I decided to get rid of my anger, my negativity, any sources of negativity, including politics. I'm post-political. I'm not going to be emotional about that for sure. I'm not going to be angry about any of it.
Turn off the
Okay.
news. Everybody who's listening, turn it off.
Turn it off. All you're doing is you're being fed a type of poison that will ensure that you're negative.
Mm-hmm.
That is all they're doing is they're feeding you fear. And when you eat fear for every single dish that you have, it will start to cause you to be way more negative than positive. Most of the people who have read this book that have sent me a note have said something like, I'm now post-political and I've turned the news off completely and I feel way better now. Of course you do, because you're not taking in all this negativity. That if you keep watching the TV and you sit in front of, let's say, Fox News or MSNBC, and people are talking about how the other guys are the bad guys and we're the good guys, and that's just not a good way to think about your peers, your family, your neighbors. And all of us have our own beliefs and we have our own experiences. But once you start turning the TV on and watching that routinely, you will immediately start becoming more negative than positive.
It's all propaganda. Listen, I turned off cable, 2010. I would have the news on in another room, and I wasn't really listening, but I had it on for background noise. And I realized at some point that my stomach hurt. I was tense. The back of my neck hurt. My stomach hurt. And I started thinking, well, what in the heck? And I realized that I was listening to all this propaganda.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, hell with you. And I cut off cable and I've never gone back.
Yeah, I haven't either. I have no interest. I just don't think there's anything good there. If you wanted to, well, here's what people ask me, Denise. They say, how am I going to know what's going on in the world? And I tell them, all your negative friends are going to tell you the bad things that are happening. You don't have to look for it. They will want to share it with you. Like, are you seeing what's going on over here? They're going to want to try to divert your attention to the thing that they're worried about and their fears. And it's just not worth doing that. So I think that the best thing for us to do is to try to avoid all of that. If you want to pick up something and read it, pick up The Economist. They are out of England, and they're not trying to divide the American populace like our media does. So that's something that you're going to get information, but you're not going to get the information that's designed to be fearful.
Exactly. And listen, I know what's going on in the world. I keep very well abreast of it, but not through legacy media in the United States. I don't trust them. I haven't for a long, long time. So I go across the sea, across the pond, if you will. But, and here's something, and I know you think the same way, is that you can read it, but you need to apply critical thinking to it. Is this real? Is this really real? Where can I find more information? Don't just take the headline and go, oh, okay, that's it. It's not it.
Yeah,
So critical thinking.
One of the things that I'm concerned about right now, and I've been writing about it occasionally, is there's this concept called post-literate society. And that means that we're not reading, we're not using that critical view that you're describing. And I'm afraid now that we're not in post literate society. I think we're in post literate society because we have this generation TikTok. And if you can only focus on something from 8 to 12 seconds, that's not very good for your thinking. And when you go out and you're watching these short reels that people do, you're not really getting anything more than a bumper sticker. So it's a one thought, very short, no context, no understanding, nothing deep enough for you to really understand what that would mean if it was something bigger and better than that. And I'm concerned that people don't read anymore and they just do all the passive things because we can watch YouTube, we can watch Instagram, we can watch TikTok. I don't do those, but other people do that. And I think that it's shortening their already very small amount of attention that they can give to anything for more than 8 seconds. So I think that that's a problem. And I also think that that is going to cause people to be more negative too, just because this platform seems to do that, especially TikTok.
I agree with you. And listen, as you know, I'm a voracious reader. I've got hundreds of books in this room, and they were all gifted to me by people like you. I have read every single one of them, and I have one particular shelf, which is let's go back and read this again. They're going to be in my hands quickly because there's something so important in these books. And I'm finding out, or I'm observing, I don't have any, hard facts to go with this, but I'm observing that people really are not reading the way we used to. When I was a kid, my mom would line us up, take us to the library. We would, each of us, take as many books as we were allowed to, and we would go home. And if it was just too hot or too cold to be outside, we'd get in the living room, we would read. I can read a book literally in a couple of hours. We all could, and we would pass it down the line. When we were in the library, we say, "Are you getting that one? Okay, well, I won't. I'll go get something else." We collaborated on what we were going to be reading.
I would take out as many books as I could when we didn't have any money. And I was always horrified to have to bring the books back because some of those books were so important to me. And then I had to go give them back, and I never wanted to give them back. And I thought, when I am able to get my own money, I'm going to buy these books and I'm going to keep them. And I think I have close to 3,000 in my house right now.
You and me both. And I've got them in the garage. They're in closets. I have an armoire that's in one of the bedrooms. It's stacked with books. If anybody wanted to hang their clothes in as a guest, they would have to just leave them in their suitcase. I'm not moving those books. But I understand. So my wish is that more people would actually sit down and read and enjoy and read anything you can lay your hands on. I'll read the back of a cereal box, and I don't eat cereal. But if that's all that's in front of me, I'll read it.
You're a reader, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
I started a book club called the One Up Book Club, and we're reading what I'm calling substantial or consequential books. So we're reading things that are really full of insights about the future. And I've got, I don't think, 60 people now that have joined this.
Give me a couple of titles off the top of your head.
This one's a big one. So you're a reader, so you can do this.
I am.
About 500 pages. It's a book called The End of the World is Just the Beginning, and it's by a guy named Peter Zeihan. He's a great writer. He's done a lot of thinking about the world and what's going to happen over the next 2 decades. Most people don't know this. We did not have enough babies. Nobody else did. Demographics are terrible for us, and globalization is getting shut down right now. And so the world's going to be very different over the next 2 decades for sure, and maybe a little bit longer. So that book is a wonderful book. But if you like Audibles, the delivery that Peter Zeihan gives on the Audible that he did himself is so entertaining and so passionate and so fun that you will be able to listen to all 15 hours. I did it at 1.25. It's perfect. It's a very, very long book, but you will not see the world the same way after you. It's one of those books you won't see the world the same way as you thought you did. So that'll change your mind.
I'm heading that way. I listen to Audible books when I'm trying to go to sleep because I have to talk myself into going to sleep. So I'll turn on a book, and I've got some that I just keep turning on over and over and over again, and I find something new because honestly, I'll wake up and go, "Hey, I haven't heard that before." So I'm absorbing when I'm sleeping, but I'm going to go grab that one. How do I get in your book club? I would love to be in there.
Oh, we'll get you in. That's not hard to do. And then the other one that you might want to look at is a book called Same as Ever. So that first book is about all the changes that are going on. Morgan Housel, this is his second book. His first book was called The Psychology of Money. This one's called Same as Ever. And it's about the things that aren't ever going to change. And it's kind of like a Gladwell book. It's got
Ooh.
lots of stories, lots of insights. It's a very good book. So that's another one that I would recommend too.
I am in. And just so everybody knows, when I'm listening to Audible, I don't listen to fiction. I have no interest. I'd rather read that because I can populate the images in my head if I'm
Right.
reading it. But if it's a business book, I like to listen to it because I can be moving around the house. I can be walking the dog. I'm not a TV or movie watcher. I can't just sit there and turn my brain over to something else. Although I did love Top Gun Maverick, I'll say that. But still,
That's a good movie.
it
That's a very
is.
good movie.
It really
Tom,
is.
Tom Cruise, I think, is the last, I don't
Movies.
know, like he's
Yeah,
the
he's it.
movie star.
That's exactly right. There's nobody like him. Nobody's got his body of work, and you'll hear people say negative things about him. I think he's a heck of an actor, and he works hard. So you have to admire his accomplishments. But that movie, I saw it in the theater I hadn't been in a theater since Harry Potter. I just don't go. And I got home and I bought it. I can turn it on any old time I want. Just listen to the music.
He just makes good movies.
He does.
Yeah, but he wasn't good at Jack Reacher because Jack Reacher's supposed to be a big guy, and he's not
Yeah.
really a big guy.
No, I haven't watched those, and I haven't watched any of the MI5, whatever those movies are. I really, I'm gonna, I'm gonna tell on myself here, but I had never seen the first Top Gun movie. And the weekend that Top Gun Maverick came out, I had friends over, and it was all over the news, on Twitter and here, there, and yonder that, this movie was going to be huge. So we all decided to take a lunch break on Monday, and we went to the theater. It was empty, thank goodness. And we walked out of there. We couldn't even talk. We couldn't even say, "What did you think about that?" We were just silent. And I got home and I bought it, which I don't do. It's a tremendous, and when you see it in the theater, you're just blown back into your seat going, "Oh my God, oh my God." It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We are really getting off center, but that's okay. You know what? I'm going to have you come back. I do this every time I talk to you. It's like, "Oh, you got to come back." Okay, so let's talk about empathy
Hmm,
because, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about empathy. I
me
really do.
too.
Okay,
I think in the
tell me.
business world, people talk about that, but they don't really practice it. I think it's just something that you're supposed to say, that we're empathetic.
Yeah, like,
Uh,
"Oh, I'm authentic." Really? If you have to tell me, you might want to rethink that.
yeah, I have this belief that empathy is walking 2 miles in somebody else's shoes, but compassion is recognizing that their shoes are too small and then going and getting them a pair of shoes that fit them. So I think compassion is what we really should be making the goal. But let me talk about empathy. My brother, Jake Iannarino, is a comedian. If you go see him and you are offended, I have warned you. So you've now been warned. If you're in the front row, I promise you that you're going to have you'll have an interesting time. That I can say. He's in Japan right now. He's going on an Asia tour right now, so he's in Tokyo, speaking right now. So that's an interesting thing. But he's the one that gave me this idea. as he drives around the United States from place to place, he was really unhappy about how people drive. And so there's a lot of people who are just not very good drivers. And a lot of times he felt like he was being threatened by how bad people were driving. And he described them as having road rage. And then coming back from Florida last year, one time, there was a guy trying to get in front of his car. And he looked over at the guy's face and he realized that this guy was under some sort of duress. And he thought in his mind, like, this guy is too far away from a rest stop. And that's why he's driving this way. Now, how could he know that? So I asked him that. How could you know that? And he said, because it happens to me all the time. And then I really try to get close to a rest stop or a gas station. And I said, you have no idea if that guy has road rage or if he's just a bad driver. But he said, it doesn't matter. I just said he must be under duress. And I just let him go in front. So he rolled down the window and he said, go, go. And he just started telling the guy to go in front of him. And the guy went in front of him. And if you've never been on a freeway in Florida, I can promise you they are the very worst drivers ever. So it's hard to determine exactly why they're driving so bad because they do that routinely. And I thought that is just a brilliant insight. Like, you can just have the empathy for that person, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Maybe he needs to get to a restroom. Maybe he's got a prescription for his young kid. Maybe his wife's about to have a baby. I don't know what's happening, but all you have to do is just give them something that could be true, even if it's not true, and then just be empathetic and let them go by. It's a lot better than having any kind of conflict or road rage or anything like that. And now he's practiced that now for a couple of years, and he's a better driver and he's a lot happier. You can do that anytime you want. I mean, I was at a grocery store and there was a very old lady, and she was talking to the cashier for a lot longer than people were comfortable with. And I thought, maybe she doesn't have anybody, and maybe this is the only person that she talks to.
Yeah, she was
And
probably lonely.
yeah, and she's probably lonely. And you're gonna wait for a few more minutes. Just wait for a few more minutes. It's not a big deal. You're at a grocery store. And if we would do that and just give that as a gift to other people, just give them that empathy, not only is that good for them, it's way better for you because you're no longer angry or, let's say, not patient and
Irritated. Yeah.
irritated. Yeah, all of those things. You can get rid of those things just by changing what you believe about that. I think it's one of the more powerful things in the book that can definitely help you feel a lot better, a lot more positive more of the time.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about this lady because I live in the deep South. We chat. They chat. I don't. Well, I'm lying. I have to. If somebody says hi to you, how's your mom and them, you got to talk to them. Doesn't matter how introverted you are. But sometimes, especially here, because I live in Cajun country, and these people are fascinating. You have to learn to understand their accent, but boy, they've got some stories. And sometimes I'll just kind of lean back and listen to them. I'm probably going to learn something. And yeah, they're taking up too much time in whatever line they're in. I don't care. They're funny people. I enjoy listening to them.
Sometimes I can understand them.
It's difficult.
The coach of LSU, who's not there anymore, but I forget his name, but I could never understand what he says.
Right. When I first got here, I moved here from California when I was really pretty young. And I remember asking somebody, what language is that? And they said, English. I said, no, it's not. It took me a while before I could say, oh, hi, and answer back in a way that made sense because I caught every third word. But once you get used to it, you're used to it and you don't even hear it anymore. But there's a learning curve.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
But up here in the north, we don't have mud bugs and we don't have etouffee. So
crawfish. Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
it's coming on crawfish season. Woohoo. And we eat alligator. I tell, we will eat anything that doesn't get away quick enough. So just be careful what's on your plate. I was at a gathering one time and I looked at this slab, and I'm not a big slab of meat person, chop it up and hide it under something. And there was this big chunk. It looked like a chicken breast. I said, "What is it?" I said, "That's nutria." I said, "Nutria rat?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Here, take it back. Take it back." I
No,
didn't even know how to hold the plate.
that can't be as good as etouffee.
Oh God, no, nothing
It
is.
can't be.
No, nothing is. But listen, we're talking about empathy, and I do. It seems to be a catchword these days. We're using empathy and we're being authentic, but are you really? And I really like how you moved that from empathy to compassion. Have you ever listened to Greg Braden?
Yeah.
Okay, me too. And he talks a lot about, I listen to him when I'm trying to go to sleep. He talks a lot about compassion, and that's a completely different thing than empathy, I think.
Yeah, and I think empathy is you understand how somebody feels.
Exactly. And
But compassion
it's probably
compassion
native.
means I'm doing something about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, and I'm not going to use the word empaths, but a lot of us, especially if we're introverted, I am going to use the word empaths because we listen between the lines. We hear things that you probably don't understand that we're hearing because we're watching, we're observing, we're paying attention. To me, that's, when you're being empathic, you're really trying to understand what's
Right.
going on. But then when you're compassionate, you try to do something about it if it's warranted.
Right. If it's warranted. Most of the time it probably is.
Right. Right. So personal achievement, what are some of the key techniques from the negativity fast that can help sales professionals increase their positivity and reduce fear in their work? And that's
Yeah.
important because so many people are saying, "Oh God, I hate my job. I hate my boss." And blah, 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 blah. That doesn't help. What do
Oh
you do
no, it
to
doesn't help.
fix that?
That'll make you even more negative, and
Yep.
that's not going to help you do anything. I have a lot of young people that come to me and they ask me, how do you deal with all this rejection? And I said, why do you think you're being rejected? And they say, because they said no.
Oh,
And I said, well, they didn't say no to you. They said no to the offer that you gave them. So maybe you asked them for a meeting, but you didn't tell them what they were going to get out of the meeting. So they said no. Or maybe you were thinking you're going to win a deal, which is great. And then you get the phone call that says, we decided to go another direction. And that hurts too. But it's always what I would call two L's. You're either going to have a loss or you're going to have a lesson. And you have to decide which one of those things you're going to leave that experience with. I would prefer, if you wanted my advice, to leave with a lesson. And if you can leave with a lesson, then you can do better in the future. But if you think that you lost something, you really didn't lose anything. Like you're still here. You're still going to be successful in the future. It says nothing about anything that happens in the rest of your life. And then I generally like to tell them the story about my girlfriend when I was 17. Her name was Jennifer. And when she broke up with me, I was 17, and she said, "You're a loser. You're always going to be a loser. My mom thinks you're a loser. My sisters think you're a loser. And that's why I'm breaking up with you." I didn't really need all that. That was more than I needed.
and
She
that
could
was
have
not
just
a nice
said,
girl. That's a mean girl.
at the time, she wasn't wrong. So let's say the trajectory that I was on at that time was not the trajectory that I'm on now. Anyway, about 2 days before she died of an overdose, uh,
Oh,
she she called me and said, "I want to apologize to you. You're not a loser, and I really regret saying that." She didn't have to say that to me. I have no like I would forgive her for that like with no problem. It wasn't anything that was going to stay with me anyway. Anyway, but it was nice for her to do that. That's real rejection, though. When somebody tells you, like, it's not about anything except you, I would buy from some other salesperson that works for your company, but not you. That never happens, though. They try to be as nice as they can, even when they when they lie to us, which they do, when they come and they say, well, we decided to go another way, they'll say something like, well, they had a lower price than you. Now, they probably didn't, but that makes you feel like it wasn't you. And that's what most of the people who are making decisions try to do, is just soften the blow as much as they can. So I don't think they should have to worry too much about that. If you decide, though, that something didn't go right, the event didn't happen the way you wanted it to, just figure out, how would I do it better in the future? That's the only thing that you have, is you have a future where you can try again, change your strategy, and see if you can't get a better outcome.
Exactly. And if people say, well, I lost it. Well, it wasn't yours to start with. So how did you lose it?
Right.
Like, I prefer lessons, and, lessons can be tiny. I get a lot of requests to come on this show, and I had a very long, lengthy, pretty nice written email. And I had to respond after I read the whole darn thing and said, listen, all you gave me was a first name. You didn't tell me who the person really is. How am I supposed to go find this person and make a decision on whether I even want to do a pre-interview? And I was nicer than that. I mean, I was, not being ugly about it, but I'm hoping that there was a lesson this person learned about how to approach people. Just give us all the information we need. Keep it easy, keep it simple, but give us
Yeah,
what we need.
absolutely.
So that's just a small thing, but I was like, oh, I could have just deleted it. That wouldn't have been fair to her. She went to a lot of trouble.
Right. And you can always be nice and still say no.
And I may have to. I mean, looking at it, from the description, it was really not a topic that I'm probably going to have a lot of interest in, but I would like to know more about the founder that she mentioned. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. So, sometimes you have to do the back and forth, but you never just go, no, I'm not going to do this. Give it a little bit of a try. And if it's not going to work, no is my favorite word.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is. I use it a lot.
Every day I get about 10 emails from people who want me to put a link in one of my blog posts to one of their blog posts. And what's interesting to me is that no one offers reciprocity.
Right.
And you're like, I mean, you were probably raised by wolves or something. Like, you don't know to say, if you would do this, we could do this with you, and we might have a collaboration, but they don't do that. It's really odd. And so
It's
sometimes I tell
manners.
them, like, you should
Don't you
probably
find? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
change,
interrupt. Don't you
they
find
should
it's just
change
manner?
the strategy, you know?
Right, right. It's like we're living in a mannerless society these days. Common sense, manners. I mean, those two things should go together. They
Right.
don't seem to, though.
Before we're done here, I do want to share the 3 blessings for people who are listening to this, because this is one of the more powerful things that you can do to be more positive more of the time and less negative less of the time.
Share now.
Okay. There's a person named Marty Seligman, and he is known as the father of positive psychology. There was no positive psychology before Seligman. And what he decided is, not everybody has to be with an analyst, or they don't have to take pharmaceuticals. And what we should try to get people to do is to flourish and to be happy and to be optimistic. And he is the top of the stack for this kind of thinking and this kind of research. So what happened to Seligman is he ended up as the person on the cover of Time. And because they were on Time, there was a place where they were explaining that Seligman and an entrepreneur were doing this survey for people to see about their anxiety, their stress, their depression. And what he had them do is called 3 blessings. So if you are a gratitude person, I'm going to probably move you out of doing your gratitude in the morning and have you do it at the end of the day. And I'll explain why as we do this. What Seligman had people do was to write down 3 things at the end of the day that went well for them and why it went well for them. And if you did that, this is what Seligman says, if you do that for 2 weeks in a row, you do it the whole time, the anxiety, the stress, and even depression started to just fade away. And it lasted for about 6 months for those people. That's a long time. In Seligman's research, he believes that this is more powerful than a psychoanalyst, more powerful than pharmaceuticals. And that's by looking at those other things that could have been a choice for people. It is actually better than that. But here's what I would tell you about how to do this. If you have a journal, or if you don't have a journal, get a journal. And instead of just writing the 3 things down on a piece of paper, put it in a journal and then do this for a month. Do it for a whole month. Like every day, do this. Before you go to bed, write down 3 things that went well for you and why they went well for you. And then at the end of a month, open that journal and start looking at all the good things that happened to you over a 30-day period. And you're going to look at this and you're going to say, this is pretty good here.
Or
There's a
I've
lot
read about that. You do that? I'll look back at my day minder and go, oh, I did that. Or, ooh, good girl.
when you see how many things go well for you, it starts to work backwards on your what's
Right.
called negativity bias. So now you're not just taking in negative stuff, you're taking in all this positive stuff and you're writing it down and you're looking at just how much of your life is really good. It will cause you to be more positive than negative. So I think that's probably one recommendation I try to always make.
I practice gratitude all day, every day. And I do try to jump out of bed in the morning. My mom used to say the devil said, she's awake, oh crap, because I just hit the floor running. But she meant it, I think. My mom was mean. She's a little pocket Venus. She could jump like a flea, though. But, I do try to practice gratitude deliberately, relentlessly, because there's so much to be grateful for. And I didn't used to be that way. I was always kind of cranky. And I got good and sick of myself over time. I really did. I knew it wasn't helpful. I knew I didn't feel good. People seemed to like being around me, but I suspect that there were moments when they would look and say, what did she say? Because I don't have any filters. So, I had to really take a look at myself. But what I have done forever, and I think Emerson, either Emerson or Einstein used to do this. I can't remember who now, but when I'm getting ready to actually go to sleep, when I can feel myself finally sinking into sleep, I will turn over something that's bugged me all day long. It was an answer to a piece of code that I was working on. It could have been something to do with money or anything, anything. And I will turn it over to my subconscious literally for review. And I'll look up at the ceiling fan, which I can't see because I'm in the dark, but I know it's there. I can feel it. And I'm looking up at the ceiling and I'm speaking it out loud. I'm speaking to God, spirits, whoever is listening to me. Again, I use that a lot. And my subconscious, and I'm telling you, Anthony, 3:18 in the morning, I wake up, I've got the answer. But I need to also incorporate that before I turn my problem over to my subconscious. I need to also soak in what I did right that day. So I'm adding that to my layer of Denise, go to sleep. Denise, go to sleep.
Denise, I shut my eyes and I am out.
I
Just
can't
like that.
do that.
Just
I'm
like
so
that.
jealous.
My wife is always mad. She's like, "Why do you go to bed so fast?" And I'm like, once the eyes are shut, I'm out. Just like that. It takes me seconds to be completely asleep. And she
Right.
scrolls.
Does she poke you in the side and go, you awake, you awake?
No, she listens to podcasts, all the ones that are like about murders and all kinds of stuff. And then she tells me she had a bad dream, and I'm like, well, what were you listening to and watching before you did that? But I go to sleep very, very fast.
I've known people like that. And my sister used to do that. We were in Arkansas one time. Our grandmother was dying, and we were in a motel close to the hospital. And she moved to another room the next day. She says, I can't stand you. You're too cheerful. You wake up happy. I was like, sorry. And she left. She literally went to another room. But I do. I wake up in the mornings. I'm like, gotta go. I got stuff to do. But sleep is not a skill for me. Maybe one day I'll learn how to do it, but for right now, I think I'm okay with it
I hope you are.
too.
And I tell people that on 7 hours of sleep, I'm the Dalai Lama. On 5, I'm Stalin. I need the sleep. I feel much better after I get a good night's sleep. Can
See,
I
I'm
give
the
one?
opposite. I have to tell you, I'm the opposite. If I sleep, if I go to bed and I wake up and I've slept 7 or 8 hours, I'm probably going to go to a walk-in clinic. I'm sick. There's something wrong with me. I kid you not. I'm groggy. I'm miserable. I don't feel good. It just doesn't work. I guess we all have our own way
Yeah,
of
that's
dealing.
right.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
people
I
need
interrupted.
more. Some
Yeah.
people need less.
Yeah.
Can I give them one more thing to do?
You can do whatever you like.
Okay.
This is your
Yeah.
show.
I want to make sure I give them this one too. A lot of people have said something about certain things in this book, so I'll do two things. One, for those who haven't read this, there is a place in there where I say that you never have to worry about the opinions of people who are not going to show up at your funeral. And somebody corrected me and said, you don't even have to worry about some of the people that are going to be there. So you don't have to worry about other people's opinions. The people that care about you and the ones that you care about, those are what really counts. But I've done this for a very long time, so a lot of people like this story, and I'll give it to you. But maybe you can do something like this. At the end of every year, I go into the Humane Society and I buy all the dogs. And
Oh,
I don't keep all the dogs. I don't take the dogs, but I do pay for them. So I'm like a bondsman for dogs. That's what I do. So I go and I buy them. Well, the last time I did this, they said, "Can we just keep the money? Because we have some dogs that are going to need training and other things, and it would be really helpful to just be able to hold on to that while we need it." And I said, "Sure, not a problem." What happened after that was they said, "Could you take a picture with this pit bull?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take a picture with the pit bull." And I did. And it's a big pit bull and was a very playful dog, but it was a big dog. So it was a little bit of work to keep the dog sitting next to me on this couch. They took a picture of it and they put it on their Facebook page. And then there's all these people saying, like, this man is an angel and all these other things. But I don't think of it that way at all. I just care about people and I care about animals. So it's normal for me to do that. But the next day, a woman came in and she bought every cat in the Humane Society.
oh,
That had to be like 600,000 cats. I don't know how many. There's so many
a
cats in
lot.
there. And she bought all of them. But after she saw that picture that I bought all of them and I didn't take any of them home with me, but they got all the money, right? So they got the money from her and they got the money from me. And that's just fun. I do this with homeless people. I have the daughter who was with me when I gave a guy $80 and she said, well, he's going to buy drugs with it, or he's probably going to get alcohol. And I said, I didn't give him the money to control him. I gave him the money because I have the money to give him. And I don't know what he's going to do with it. I hope he makes a good decision. But if he doesn't, I can't do anything about that. But I can try to help him. And so that's what I do. So I think I want you to know this is called helper's high. So when you do something for another human being or a sentient being here, you will feel way better. Like the negativity disappears because you're not focused on anything about you. You're trying to help another person. And if you do that, the whole world gets a whole lot better.
I didn't know that you had done that. And one of my cats is sitting on my desk. He thinks that this is a podcast, PWD. I just used his tail to wipe my tears off, just so you know. I got really teary-eyed when you said that because look, I'm a cat and dog person, and they can be the best dogs. I've had multiple pits over my time. I've only once in my life come across one that thought, I don't know about you, and I avoided it, but they can be absolutely lovely dogs, and I'm so grateful that you shared that story.
Yeah. And so if maybe somebody hears that, maybe they'll go and go to the Humane Society and don't have to take the dogs. Actually, two other people who saw that on the Humane Society went in and bought two more dogs, and another group went and bought two more dogs when they found out they didn't have to keep them, but they could give them the money. Of course you can give them the money, right?
Right, right.
And then this last 2 months ago, that Humane Society ran out of dog food. So we sent a shipment from Amazon to take care of the dogs. You can do that anytime and you'll feel great about it. And it's called helper's high. When you help people, it does all of the good things in your brain. So all the dopamine, all the serotonin, all of those things happen, and it changes you. All the endorphins, like everything goes great in your brain when you do something like this. So this is a science-based book, but it doesn't have a lot of science in it. But if you want to find out where I learned some of these things as I was doing this, building my own negativity fast, in the back, there's probably 200 citations. So if you want to know more about gratitude, gratitude is really important. And I have to say one thing about complaining before we leave, because we're getting short here, but let me tell you this
about
way.
10 more minutes, and I want you to stay as long as you can.
Cool. When you complain, if you are a constant complainer, I didn't know this when I was writing the book. I found out right after the book was published. If you continue to be a chronic complainer, your hippocampus in your brain will start to shrink. It literally will shrink. And that's responsible for memory and intellectual thinking. So you do not want to be a complainer. So I was a world-class complainer when I was young, all the way through my 30s until my maybe 40s. And I was constantly unhappy about all kinds of things. But now I just look around and think, this has got to be the best right here, right? I've got ice cream, I got pizza, I got people I love, I got dogs, I got friends, I got people who were kind enough to bring me on their podcast and read the book and give me that great review. Thank you for that. So there's just so many things to be grateful of. And the gratitude can help you get rid of all that complaining. It's really the what you should do is to get rid of that and just be more grateful for everything that you have. I keep asking people, have you ever had ice cream? And they're like, yeah, it's good, right?
It's yummy.
It's really good. Yeah, you like it here, right? You ever have a good pizza? It's pretty good. Like all the things here are good. I don't know what it's like on the other side, but I know on this side, it's pretty good here. And if I could stay, I would stay. But I think that if you can start thinking about how much you complain just to yourself, like you don't even have to say it out loud, but complaining will also hurt your mental health and your physical health. So those things are both true.
It is true. And listen, I learned about gratitude from this podcast. When I tell you that my guests are my mentors in many ways, I'm not joking. And this had to have been 10 or more years ago. And this man came on my podcast and he had been diagnosed with a terrible type of cancer. He was not going to live. That's what he was told. And you tend to believe what you're told sometimes. I don't, but a lot of people do. And because I want to test it, I want to go find out, is that true? Is it really true? Or is this complete nonsense? But he was, I think, 5 years down the road after this horrible diagnosis. And I had to ask him, why are you still here? What did you do? He said, gratitude.
Yeah,
He shifted immediately into massive, relentless gratitude, and it saved his life.
I believe that. I believe that. I know after reading all the science, when you just read about gratitude, the reason I cited this is because when I read all the stuff on gratitude, it's shocking. Like you can't believe it. It will give you better cognitive function. It will reduce the inflammation in your body.
Your brain, you can feel it in your head. That's inflammation.
Yeah, you will have less chance of having a heart attack. You will have less stress, less anxiety, less depression. You'll have lower blood pressure. I mean, you just see this giant long list of what gratitude does for us. And if you see that list, you just think, that's a lot of things that gratitude's carrying as long as you do that work. So if you would do the 3 blessings, or if you want to do it in the morning because you're a morning person and you want to do something to be grateful at the beginning of the day, you can do it both. You can do it at the beginning and at the end of the day and be grateful for everything that happened to you. And that would help you feel a whole lot better. So I did this for me before I did this for you. I did this because I needed it, and I've never gone back. I've never gone back. I'm still on the fast. So I'm trying to make the whole rest of my life still part of this negativity fast. So if you're interested in this, you can get the book at Amazon, or you can order it from Barnes and Noble. If you do this, you could go to LinkedIn, and if you send me a note, I'll give you a workbook that you can use to go through this process.
Perfect. And one of my last questions was going to be about the 13-week negativity fast. So can you explain how that works and, what people can expect during that period?
I can tell you what happened to me, and then I'll tell you a little bit about that. For me, I decided I was only going to do this for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, I just felt so much better. I got rid of all politics. I got rid of all news. I got all of that out of my life. And then I decided that maybe I could do it for another 30 days. And I did it for another 30 days. I felt even better after the 30 days. So now I'm 60 days in, and I thought, I feel so much better. I feel like all of this weight has been taken off of me, and I don't have to even worry about this anymore. And then I realized I made a mistake. So one of the mistakes that I made is, even though I was trying to get rid of the negativity, I wasn't taking in positivity. So for the next 30 days, I listened to Zig Ziglar. I listened to Stephen Covey. I listened to Tony Robbins, Les Brown. I listened to nothing but positivity for that next 30 days. And then I've just stayed there. So here's what I would tell you. Don't try to get rid of your family members and your friends that are negative. Don't do that. At the beginning of this, start getting rid of things that are not human beings. So the news, some of the things that you probably read around politics, spending time on social media, that will definitely make you more negative than positive. Get rid of those first, and then start trying to put in positive things that you can read or listen to or watch. If you do that, those things will help you tremendously. Save the last part of this 13 weeks for the people that you do have to you have to do something to get rid of those people and their influence on you. So if you're around negative people all the time, you will be negative. But save that to the end, because I think that relationships are the most important thing that we have here. And I would want to do this in a way that doesn't harm them in any sort of way. But I would, if you have a lot of people who are negative, you probably should try to move away from that. It's very hard to flip them to being positive. But if you give them the book, maybe they can. Maybe they can make that change. A lot of people have. I've had maybe 70, 80 people reach out to me and tell me they feel a lot better, and they're never going back.
Oh, good. And that's exactly why you did this.
That is why I did it. I thought it was time.
No kidding. I wanted to ask you before I cut you loose, reluctantly let you go. Are you familiar with the Heart Math Institute?
Yeah.
Me too. Love them. Okay. Just wanted to find out. I thought you might be. So before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to, speak to the audience about or share with? And of course, tell people again where they can find you.
You can find me at thesalesblog.com, or you can find me at LinkedIn. Those are two good places. And then my final word here is to say thank you again for having me on. You always are such a great host, and I really appreciate you.
Are welcome to come back anytime. And I am still tapping into this book, and I think there's a lot that we didn't cover. Would you like to come back maybe in another month or so?
Love to.
Okay, good. And I asked you that on the radio, so you can't tell me no. It's very tricky.
I wouldn't say no anyway.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, everybody, Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Go find Anthony online, connect with him, get this book. Look, I have The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. It's a terrific book. Of the two books that I have on my desk, The Negativity Fast is the one that has been the most impactful to me. It's an amazing book. So I strongly recommend that you get both of these books in your entrepreneurial library. And as we conclude today's episode, your feedback means a lot to me. So if you found the show helpful, please support us with a quick review on iTunes. Your input is vital in my mission to inspire and empower more individuals. So don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share your Partner in Success Radio with friends and colleagues. And again, go look for Anthony Iannarino on the web and connect with him. You will not be sorry. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Anthony, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. I got to jump, but I will try to reach back out and say hi again.
Absolutely. I was going to call you after, but I will later today.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you again. Okay.
Sure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.